President Vladimir Putin has ordered a major expansion of the Russian army, increasing the number of active soldiers to 1.5 million. This increase, adding 180,000 soldiers, will be fully in effect by December 2024. With the ongoing war in Ukraine, this is a big change in Russia's military. Increasing the number of troops will affect the balance of power in Eastern Europe. Putin's order also requires more government spending, putting a strain on the Russian economy. This comes at a time when Ukraine is succeeding on the battlefield, showing weaknesses in the Russian army. Putin's decision is seen as a direct response to these setbacks. The world is watching closely as this military build-up unfolds. It has the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape. The international community must urge for restraint and a peaceful resolution to the ongoing conflict. The Kremlin justifies the military expansion as a response to Western hostility, pointing to NATO expansion and Western military support for Ukraine. The flow of weapons and intelligence to Kiev has strengthened Ukraine's defenses. Economic sanctions placed on Russia have further fueled the Kremlin's narrative of Western aggression. These sanctions have crippled the Russian economy and isolated it from global financial systems. Moscow argues that these measures are designed to weaken and destabilize Russia. The Kremlin's narrative portrays Russia as a fortress under siege, forced to defend itself from a hostile West. This rhetoric serves to rally domestic support for the war in Ukraine. It also aims to justify the need for a stronger military. The international community has reacted with alarm to Putin's decision, calling it a dangerous escalation. Western leaders see it as a sign that Russia is doubling down on its military ambitions, increasing fears of a wider conflict. The announcement has been met with condemnation from NATO and the European Union, which accuse Russia of destabilizing the region. Many countries are now reassessing their own defense postures, looking to strengthen their military capabilities. This has led to increased defense spending across Europe and North America. The situation remains tense and the world is on edge. Putin's move has injected a dangerous level of uncertainty into the international system. The consequences of this military escalation could be far-reaching. The international community must find ways to manage these tensions. Avoiding a descent into a new Cold War is crucial. The expansion of the Russian army has immediate implications for the war in Ukraine. A larger and potentially better equipped force could tip the balance in Russia's favor, prolonging the conflict. With more troops, Russia could launch new offensives and strengthen its defensive lines. This would make it harder for Ukrainian forces to liberate occupied territories. The influx of troops could also worsen the humanitarian crisis. However, the effectiveness of the Russian military has been questioned throughout the conflict. Simply adding more soldiers may not be enough to overcome these challenges. Ukraine continues to receive significant military aid from the West, bolstering its defenses. The outcome of the war will depend on a complex interplay of factors, including military strategy and international support. The international community must continue to support efforts to achieve a peaceful resolution. Expanding the Russian army comes at a steep price, putting a strain on the Russian economy, which is already reeling from Western sanctions. The Kremlin will have to divert resources from other sectors such as healthcare and education. This increased military spending could lead to higher taxes and cuts to social services. The Russian people will bear the brunt of these economic hardships. Diplomatically, Russia's actions have further isolated it on the world stage. Many countries have condemned Russia's aggression and imposed sanctions. This has damaged Russia's reputation and limited its ability to engage in international cooperation. The Kremlin's decision to prioritize military might over economic well-being carries significant risks. Putin's decision to expand the Russian army reflects a shift in the global balance of power. The unipolar moment, dominated by the United States, is fading, giving way to greater multipolarity. Russia, under Putin's leadership, is seeking to reassert itself as a major global player. The invasion of Ukraine was a bold move to assert Russian power. China is also rising, creating a more complex geopolitical landscape. The expansion of the Russian army adds another layer of complexity to this evolving world order. It raises the stakes and the potential for miscalculations and conflict. The international community must find ways to manage these tensions. It is crucial to avoid falling into a new Cold War. The world must navigate this era of strategic competition and shifting alliances carefully.
But back home in Russia, there are also challenges. Even though the Kremlin wants everyone to think Russia is united, there are reports of people being unhappy. This is especially true in the countryside, where the economy has been hit hard and international sanctions are hurting. The government has done a good job of getting people to support Putin and his ideas, but things could get worse if the economy doesn't get better or if the fighting with the West gets more serious. Another thing that's worrying is how much the military is becoming a part of everyday life in Russia. The army is getting bigger, which means more young Russians will have to join. This could change Russia's population and society in big ways over time. In many parts of Russia, joining the army is seen as a way to escape poverty. But some people feel forced to join and are resentful. This focus on the military could change how Russians see their country's place in the world and how they feel about the West. Meanwhile, the rest of the world is watching these events closely and with concern. When Putin recently said he might use nuclear weapons if Russia went to war with the West, it made everyone very worried. A lot of people think he's just trying to scare everyone. But we can't ignore the possibility that he might actually do something extreme if he feels like Russia is in danger. This is why it's really important for countries to talk to each other, even though it doesn't seem likely that they'll agree on anything soon. So, Putin's decision to make the Russian army bigger is a big deal that affects the whole world. A lot of people thought Russia would focus on fixing its own problems, but it seems like the Kremlin is more interested in looking powerful to other countries. The tension with the West is growing. Russia and China are working together, and there's a chance of a big war. All of this means the world is entering a very uncertain time. The big question is how the United States and its allies will react, and if they can find a peaceful solution before things get even worse.